Now let's talk about natural law. Here, um, we need to understand more about kung ano ibig sabihin dito ng natural law. Natural law is actually famous from Saint Thomas Aquinas. Last time, we talked about yung change and then the new perception of the church. Now, talagang change is inevitable. Yeah. Now, a lot of things are changing. Society is changing. People are changing. Now, abortion is legalized na siya sa ibang bansa, sa ibang countries. There are a lot of countries who are now legalizing abortions. And then premarital sex then hindi na siya, it's less shocking na sa mga babae. In some other countries na parang pag virgin ka pa, parang mas nakakahiya ka. Parang what? You're still a virgin? But that's not really the thing, 'di ba? Now we should always think na we should not just give away our virginity na dahil sa yung mga kaibigan mo hindi na virgin, then you give your virginity also. Now, because of these things na nangyayari, the church has something to do, has to do something new para maayos itong mga bagay-bagay na ito. Natural law, sabi ni Richard Gula, played a very significant role in the establishment of moral norms in Roman Catholic moral theology. Moral law has been used as basis in situations of great ambiguity. It has been the basis for deriving norms applicable always, everywhere, and for everyone. Since natural law has been instrumental in our moral theology, it is just right to give some attention to the understanding of natural law. So dahil yung natural law ay may importanteng role dun sa moral norms ng mga Catholics, so kailangan nating mas intindihin kung ano ba yung tinatawag na natural law. Sabi sa encyclical letter Libertas Prestantissimum, sabi, first among all laws is the natural law, which is written and engraved in the mind of every man. For it is human reason itself commanding to do right and forbidding sin. Nevertheless, all prescriptions of human reason can have force of law only in as much as they are the voice and the interpreter of some higher power. So, yun ang sinasabi dito na sa encyclical letter na yung law, the natural law is the very first law that was engraved to mankind. And then it was further explained. Nasabi dito, laws like rule connecting men and importing so we have here the inevitable differences and common principles ng mga laws. We have the minsan kailangan nating intindihin yon. And then according sa kay Aristotle, may dalawang law. The law is either special and the law is either general. We have special or idios, or general or the koinos. That he said here that when speaking of the special law, it is the written law which regulates the people for doing something sa community, yung like adultery, etc., etc. And then when we speak of the special law or the koinos, it is the unwritten which is supposed to be acknowledged everywhere, such as killing of fellow human beings. So yung dalawang uri ng law para kay Aristotle. We have the koinos and then the idios, the special or the general law. And then here, according kay St. Thomas, natural law is a participation in eternal law within the rational creature, or the eternal law when considered actively existing in God. The regulating one is called the eternal law. When considered passively as existing in man, the regulated one, it is called the natural law. The natural law binds all men categorically, always and everywhere. Now, here, kailangan, the natural law is ay nagpa-participate siya sa tinatawag nating eternal law, which is, ang eternal law dito na tinutukoy is God, the creator. Eternal. Kung sinabi natin eternal, walang katapusan. Sabi nga natin, di ba, that God has no beginning and has no ending. And then, He is the eternal law, therefore, He is also the one responsible with the natural law. And then according to Richard Gula, this natural law emphasizes the human physical and biological nature in determining morality. So, parang yung natural is just like a blueprint, parang ganun. Theory of that supports physicalism over personalism. Personalism is a limited way, places emphasis on dimension of human person, human actions which extend beyond the physical and biological. So, yun yung personalism. It's going beyond our physical aspect. However, here, physicalism refers to the tendency in moral analysis to emphasize the physical and biological aspect of human person and human actions. Now, physicalism, ito yung biological nature ng tao. And here, pumapasok din yung natural tendency ng isang tao bilang isang tao. We have here the biological aspects and then the human dimensions. Kasi here, sabi dito, it understands nature as the viceroy of God. So here, ibig sabihin, when rule of God and rule of nature are practically one. So kung ano yung ginagawa kung anong rule ng nature, what's the natural law is also God's law. Because we all know that God created the nature, God created everything. Now minsan, the natural disaster or natural calamity, di ba hindi naman natin sila inaakusahan kasi that's their nature. Yan yung kanilang that's their law. Na sometimes minsan we curse yung nature. Minsan pag, 'di ba, pag may bagyo, minsan naiinis tayo. But come to think of it, these natural calamities or natural disasters, mayroong mga possibility, may mga good thing din na nangyayari sa mundo natin. Say for example, yung bagyo, diba? It is one way of cleansing din sa mundo. Yung cleansing sa earth if there's this typhoon. Minsan yung mga kung makikita mo kasi when you are up in a mountain tapos you look at sa isang city, makikita mo yung itim ng usok, yung kapal ng usok, lalo na sa gabi, pag makikita mo yun eh. But these natural calamities, sila yung tagalinis. Pag madumi na yung hangin, when there is this typhoon, minsan it cleanses the air. And it's, para sa akin, it's the way of nature to recover. Kung titignan din natin, di ba? COVID is just around. Di ba? Nung mga panahon na wala pang COVID, all the factories are emitting pollutions, yung mga sasakyan, etc. Nag-emit sila ng pollution. Pero when the ECQ hit Philippines, nag-ECQ sa Philippines, almost the whole island of Luzon, diba? Nag 1 month ng ECQ na no operations of the factories. Tignan natin, di ba? The traffic sa EDSA, diba? Nawala, and then it's like nag-rejuvenate yung aura ng hangin ng Pilipinas. Nag-less yung pollution, yung Manila Bay medyo luminis. That's one way also of looking at it as a good side ng mga calamities na nangyayari. And other people would always equate it na this is the way of God cleansing the earth. Most of the faithful would always think na, oo, ganun na nga, di ba? And some other people also, hindi naman natin sila matatawag nito, masisisi kung they always think negatively. Kasi syempre, because of hunger and poverty, they need to work. Pero kung titingnan din natin, there's a good effect. Ito yung pandemic na nangyayari and some other calamities. Yeah. Although most of the time, titingnan natin as a human being, di ba? Lalo-lalo na yung mga nagdaang bagyo dito sa Bicol area. Nakakawawa naman talaga yung tao. Pero we always think of the good thing, the good side. That this nature is working. This nature is just nag-replenish lang siya, nag-recover lang dun sa kanyang kahinaan na idudulot ng human beings. Physicalism is very important. Kung titingnan lang natin, kung babasehan lang natin na maayos, it is very important sa human beings. Kasi sabi dito, moral norms are written in nature. Like, it can be read off by the faculties of the human beings. So, minsan, hindi minsan, halos kadalasan talaga, there are morality na idudulot yung nature. Although we tend not to look at it positively, we always look at the natural calamity as a disaster. But there is always a morality in nature. And by that, we always, babalik na naman tayo dun sa, we have to read the signs. Kung sabi natin, read the signs of time. Now, we go to read the signs of nature. Ano ba yung pinapahiwatig sa atin ng natures? Iba? Even yung mga animals, they have their animal instincts. Kung titingnan natin, pag may natural calamity, minsan, nauuna pa silang magtago kesa sa tao. Kasi these animals, they really read the signs of nature kung may mga calamity na mangyayari. Unlike human beings, they are just so lax na, wala naman yan, okay lang yan. But when the disaster strike, I don't know, some other people would blame God, some other people would blame nature, but I don't know who to blame. Maybe we ask ourselves, why is the nature doing these things? Yeah. And then we read na this is really the way of nature recovering from the damage that has been done by people. Change, sabi natin, is constant. Everything's changing. Now, there are some moralities. In the context of morality, just a human being is the product of a slow evolution. So too are moral directives. Morality is not static, but it is a set of experiments being gradually worked out by humankind, a dynamic progressive instrument which we can help ourselves to forge. Now, yun ang sabi ni Durant Drake, na it is also a gradual work of human being na dahan-dahan din natin, pinag-aaralan din natin, is less an experiment. Pero titingnan natin, moral principles, we always equate it with the doing good and avoiding evil. And then, sabi nila sa isang relativist, moral principle change, not because social and economic conditions compel them to change, but because under different conditions. So, even moral principles is also changing. Yeah? Even if human nature is gradually changing into something different, then the basic laws governing human product must also change. So, nag-change din yan kasi sometimes misconception, misunderstanding, kaya nga it's like an experiment. We always, trial and error. Pero, when we do the trial and error, we always bear in mind that we should always do good. Now, an example here is masturbation. In early Christian period, masturbation they regarded as morally evil. Kasi, when they say masturbation, diba, the sperm of the man is released, and then they say that the sperm is a life, na pumapatay na tayo ng human being. But, accordingly, isang sperm cell lang ang kailangan maka-reach ng ovum para ma-fertilize as a human being. And then, millions of other sperms died in the process. So, kaya dito nagkaroon ng debate na maybe, or the masturbation is not really morally wrong. And then, on my point of view, life begins when sperm cell and egg cell unites. So, ibig sabihin, the sperm cell is just a partial or parang parte ng isang isang buhay. And then, the masturbation itself, the process of masturbation, is somehow debatable na siya ngayon. As for me, the process of masturbation itself is not wrong. But, the point na nagiging wrong ang masturbation is, how can you perform masturbation if you are thinking of horror things? Diba? The thing that makes a man sinful during masturbation is his mind. Kasi he's thinking of sexual things, sensual things. Fantasizing sexual figures, and even the body of a woman. So, para sa akin, dun nagkakaroon ng punto na nagiging mali ang masturbation, nagiging sinful because of the thought. And some other findings of the scientists, once we cannot release the sperm cell, it can cause a cancer. Diba? But there are some natural way of having this natural way of going out this there's this natural way na parang lumabas yung sperm. We have the wet dreams, diba? That's the natural way. Now when the time na hindi natin those are unplanned situation, na minsan you have a dream and then you release something, so that can be, but here the point here is that the masturbation is somehow debatable. The masturbation itself, the process of masturbation is not morally wrong. Yun ang pinupunto dito. That's one way of taking change sa moral principles ng tao. As we all know, change is always present. Na minsan titingnan natin, we thought of last time na this is wrong, morally wrong, but when we have this deeper understanding na this debatable, because there are a lot of changes. Say for example then, during the time of Ferdinand Magellan, they say that the earth is flat. Up until he circumnavigate the earth, they prove that the earth is round. And then suddenly, the truth that the earth is round is changed because it's not really totally round. Diba? So, those are the changes na minsan we have to take into consideration. But we have to bear in mind that natural law as an ethical concept is distinct or different from siya sa scientific law of nature. Na minsan, ito yung kailangan natin, minsan na misunderstood natin. Now, when we have this natural law in strict sense, need to be given a theological or religious interpretation. And the concept of natural law is by no means incompatible with secular morality. So, yun yung minsan na we should not equate natural law in a concept of scientific law of nature. Na minsan baka magkamali tayo ng iniisip. But the point there is, when we have this natural law, when we interpret this natural law, it should be in the light of theological or religious interpretation. Sometimes we misinterpret that the natural law in terms we equate the natural law as the will of God. Hindi siya yung will of God. Sometimes people do equate natural law as the will of God. Although God has his own is the eternal law, and then we have the natural law, but it's not really the will of God na magkaroon ng to occur this natural law. Hindi ito yung, we should not equate natural law as the will of God. Take note of that. Just like yung example natin kanina, the natural calamities, the natural disaster, typhoon, earthquake, na sometimes pag dumadating ito sa buhay natin, we always equate na God is punishing us. No, God is not a punisher. We do not equate natural disaster to the will of God. This natural calamity, we look at it as a reminder na we should not forget na alagaan yung nature. Kasi sometimes binabalahura natin yung nature. And then when the nature strikes, we said that God is punishing us. No. As I have said earlier na the law of nature is not the will of God. If there's typhoon na dumadating sa atin, it's not the will of God. It is a reminder for us that we need to be prepared and we need to take care of the nature, kasi nasa nature tayo nakatira, nasa earth tayo nakatira. We should always take care of the earth. Kung minsan nga yung bahay natin nililinisan natin, inaayos natin, we always also think na yung earth is our bigger house or bigger home. Now we always take care of it. The point here that natural law is engraved in our hearts. Natural law is unwritten law, sabi ni Aristotle. It is, hindi natin siya mababasa na nakasulat kung saan-saan. But because it is written in nature, it is unwritten. Now, the point here is, paano natin masusunod yung natural law? We should not make decisions agad-agad. Sometimes we act prudent without prudence. Yeah? Hindi natin pinag-iisipan, hindi natin pinagpaplanuhan, hindi natin tinitignan yung outcome. The point here is in order for us to be one with nature, we always use our foresight. Tingnan natin yung magiging outcome. It's like, sabi nga ni Jesus Christ, it's like you are building a tower or a house or whatever you are building na hindi mo pinag-isipan. Na minsan, when you build something, hindi mo pinagplanuhan and then suddenly it collapse. We need to plan ahead, calculate everything, kung ano magiging outcome. Prudence is very important here. In order for us to follow the natural law na masunod natin, we should always think ahead. What will be the outcome? What will be the finished product? In order for us to avoid maiwasan natin yung mga wrong outcome ng mga ginagawa natin. So I hope you learn something. This will be the end of chapter 4.